Okay. We've got William with us here today, and William had suggested this topic a couple weeks ago, and it's actually it's kind of good that it's coming up today. It's about the cold weather acclimation for your pets here in Central Texas. We'll go ahead and get started here. Regarding as we start to hit the cold weather season here in Central Texas, as everybody knows, Texas weather, especially in Central Texas, is bipolar. It can be hot one day, cold, super cold, and then right back to
Yeah.
nice, comfortable, warm weather.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what temperature range do you consider cold for pets in the Central Texas, given that they're acclimated to typically warmer weather?
I'd say, and just a quick disclaimer, I'm not an expert when it comes to that, but just from my experience, I've seen dogs do well in like once they're acclimated, below freezing temperature. Not to live outside necessarily, but just being outside, comfortably playing, hanging out for a little bit. But I've also seen dogs that are not acclimated. When they're in like the 40s, they're very uncomfortable. So, off the top of my head, maybe 30s. I mean, we could stretch that a little bit more, go a little bit lower, but again, it depends on the level of acclimation the dog has had.
Short hair, long hair.
Yeah, that's a factor as well. Yeah, long hair, obviously, dogs that are double coated, double coated like the German Shepherds, like the Huskies. Those definitely are built for cold weather because the thick layer of fur is an insulator.
Like the poodles and the chihuahuas and stuff like that. That probably we would
Yeah,
more of a
the smaller the dog, the more difficult it is because their legs get colder faster. There isn't a whole lot of circulation there just because their legs are just much smaller. So they're gonna get the little ones are gonna get colder faster, and you're gonna see them uncomfortable much faster than the larger dogs, just because you look at the size of a Chihuahua's paw, just like little, and then the size of like a German Shepherd's paw. Well, the little dog, on ice, on like snow or ice, they're gonna get colder way faster. They're also lower to the ground and all of that.
what kind of housing would you recommend for a dog that's outside in the cold weather? One of the igloo style dog houses.
The igloos definitely help. I've seen dogs that actually prefer to be outside. Again, depending on the level of acclimation, and it can be a little bit of a tricky topic because the acclimation process is so important to the dog, and also, if you decide, well, one day you go, we're gonna just leave the dog outside, and now it's gonna be an outdoor dog, and let's just get him an igloo, and the dog hasn't had time to adjust, they can get very uncomfortable. But the stress can also, make them sick, can kill them. And then you have some dogs that actually like to be outside. And in those instances, yeah, maybe an igloo would be fine. There are other accessories that you can get. There are heating pads that you could put in the igloo or, in their outdoor containment, plug it in. Just have to make sure, obviously, the dog doesn't destroy it. But those are accessories that you can get to make it safer for the dog to be outside. I mean, I've seen videos, not videos, but I've seen pictures. You might have as well. You guys might have as well, of when we had those really crazy winters here in Texas, not too long ago, of dogs that were like dead, frozen in their igloo. So the igloo is not a foolproof. It's not infallible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. And in that instance, you're going to. I mean, that was
The dog can only withstand so much temperature drop.
in that particular instance, I had one of those laser gun shooting temperatures, and we had interior walls in the upper 27s, 28
Yeah,
degrees
yeah.
registering. inside the house.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's
And even let alone outside.
outside, yeah,
Yeah.
and going for duration of days.
Yeah. So I would say an igloo would be fine, and then if the temperature, drops low, like way below the freezing temperatures, I would definitely say at least get some sort of heating accessory for the dog that would at least keep it in the safe, in the safer range. Now, I also know of people that have their farm dogs outside in Texas too, and I've talked to them that leave them outside all year round. They have their ability to go inside because they have shelters where they can go inside and get away from the snow, get away from all of that. But yeah, I've talked to them and they're like, yeah, their dogs stay outside like all year round. In Texas, obviously, and then this is not taking into account those freak winters we had a couple of years ago, which I know a lot of people are not familiar with, but I think everybody in Texas is.
Yeah,
Those
pretty much.
those
I think
unusual record-breaking
I think all
winters.
over was because I think we made national news quite a bit.
Yeah.
My office has got 17 offices in Texas, and El Paso was the only one that didn't close
Right.
for that week.
That's crazy.
I think El Paso might be the only one that didn't experience it. But taking that a little further about that that particular deal where we're without power and for days, and it was super cold weather coming in. Is that a situation where you would, although you don't have heat in your home, or you may just have a fireplace running, that you would recommend pulling your animal from the out? I mean, let's just say it's not a predator guarding dog or anything. It's just your family
Just
pet.
your pet, yeah.
Yeah, family pet. At that point, you're at least bringing it outside of the element of the wind and that coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. You always want to err on the side of caution. Your dog might be okay with the cold temperature, like a lot of dogs are. But if you're gonna have one of these cold nights that's gonna be in like the 20s, you might as well just bring the dog inside.
Okay.
You mentioned like dog sizes. What about age? Does age?
Yeah, age is definitely a factor because as they get older, they get a little bit more sensitive. Also, just all dogs in their senior years, all the way around, they're just more sensitive. They're more susceptible to get stressed a little bit easier. They're more likely to catch illnesses a little bit. Just in general, I think most animals, as they reach their senior stages, their defenses, internal defenses just kind of go down a little bit. So, and I think most people are familiar with that with humans, but a lot of people don't look into it, with animals, with their pets. That happens. They become a little bit more sensitive. So yeah, that's a good point, good question to bring up.
What about
is the
puppies?
age.
Because we've got some puppies outside right now, and it's gonna be cold tonight.
Yeah, so puppies, if we look at the weather now, so right now it's November 20th down here in Texas, and the temperature has not dropped below 40 yet, as far as I know, right?
No,
to my knowledge.
No, I think it's supposed to tonight.
Yeah, tonight is supposed to be the first night that it's dropping below.
Like 35 tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna be really, really cold. To my knowledge, before tonight, as far as I know, obviously aside from February early this year, but once we got out of winter this year, we have not yet reached below 40 as of November 20th here in Texas. So you got a puppy that was born and it's never experienced winter, or even if we were to generalize a little bit more and were to say, well, we have a dog that's never experienced winter outside and we wanted to make that transition of making it an outdoor dog, what do we do? Well, we want to make sure, with the puppy especially, to give them, this is where the acclimation topic goes into. You want to gradually and little by little expose them to those cold temperatures. And gradually doesn't mean necessarily, let's do 45 degrees now and then 43 degrees tomorrow and then 41 degrees, because the weather doesn't work that way. It's just all over the place. But what gradually means when it comes to acclimation, it means, okay, what do we have? We have, 38-degree temperatures. Okay, let's start with that. We'll bring the dog and the puppy as well to those temperatures for a very brief period of time. You know what I mean? Like, it could be like a few minutes. We're just gonna go out, play in that really freaking cold temperature. they're gonna have this shock in their body, right? And then we're gonna bring them inside. And then later we can also do the same thing. Whatever temperature you have, we're gonna go outside and we're gonna just do this uncomfortable thing, which we're gonna try to keep it in a playful way, at least, hopefully. Maybe we'll feed you outside. And if the dog is like all miserable, they're like, I don't want to be outside at all. All right, let's just go for a walk outside. Something like that where we go, instead of just avoiding the really cold temperatures, we're just going to take advantage of them, take you outside and expose you to them little by little, gradually extending that amount of time. What happens is dogs, being incredibly adaptable beings that they are, which they are, I feel like a lot, and you guys are probably aware of this too, most dog owners in the US, and I would say in Western cultures, have no idea how resilient and tough dogs can be. And it's not until you go to a third world country and you see how dogs live that you realize, wow, I had no idea dogs could thrive in environments that would crush the average pet, back home. So they're able to do that. They're able to toughen up. Their skin is able to withstand very incredibly high temperature, high and low temperatures, and the whole system can acclimate to that as well. Just like humans are also very adaptable, humans can thrive in very cold temperatures, provided that there are some, some safety precautions to prevent, nature from essentially killing you, due to extremely high, extremely low temperatures. But yeah, I would say for the puppies, it's going to be like 35 tonight. Now, at what point in the day is it going to reach 35? We don't know. I don't know, at least. I'm sure if we look at the weather, we can't narrow it down. But I will go, okay, what's the coldest that we feel it can be? It might be 40, it might be 38. We'll go, okay, let's bring them inside, but let's also have them spend some time outside, supervising them, watching them, bringing them back in, and then having them, taking them outside again, and then do that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That would be the best way to do it without risking them dying because of exposure.
So everybody who adopted one of our puppies, bring it in tonight.
Yeah, I would say, again, just to err on the side of caution. I don't know, maybe if you had like a den-like enclosure outside that had some sort of heater to it or some sort of accessory that would heat up the den-like enclosure, you'll probably be okay. But if you don't have those accessories, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. So erring on the side of caution, probably the best bet.
Yeah, I've been watching the weather since we've had the puppies outside and everything, and what I've noticed is when we get to our, so far I haven't looked at how tonight's going to lay out, but 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning is when we hit our coldest, and then the sun's out, and then it starts warming back up. So like you said, we really haven't had.
Yeah.
We haven't had cold weather yet.
No, we haven't. No.
And I know we have sporadic weather, or bipolar weather, whatever you want to call our weather around here. But so while we're still talking about weather here, let's see. Given our humid climate, how does moisture affect the pet's ability to stay warm, and what steps can an owner take to keep their pets dry and comfortable?
So as far as the moisture goes, I know from experience, and I don't know the details on on that, the like the humidity index and all of that. I'm not 100% familiar with how that affects the temperature itself, but I do know from experience. I think most of us know from experience, humidity adds an extra level of discomfort to any temperature.
I call it the wet cold.
You know, you got the wet cold. Even if it's hot, you add humidity to that,
Yeah.
you're more uncomfortable. You're cold, you add humidity to that, you also get more uncomfortable. So I would say the same rule obviously applies. Yeah, look at the temperature, look at the humidity as well, but also kind of go by feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a big one too. Just kind of go by feel. Yeah, sometimes, from a human perspective, we could look at the temperature and the temperature might say 98 degrees, that's hot. But when you step outside, if you feel like you're suffocating and it does not feel like 98, it feels like over 110, that's a very high humidity, index. But the temperature is just reading 98. Well, you kind of go by feel as well because the humidity does add another, another factor of influence to how you feel also. That would be, what I would say as far as the humidity goes. Just kind of go by feel. And this is off of my ignorance when it comes to the specifics of how humidity exactly affects, the weather.
Okay. Yeah, as a kid, I always gauged it as earlobe cold.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's like at that point, it's
Yeah,
too much.
good point.
Okay, so what signs should a pet owner watch for that indicate that their pet is having trouble with cold temperatures?
So some really obvious ones are uncontrollable shivering.
Okay.
So if the dog is really shivering, that tells you, okay, yeah, a lot of dogs will shiver a little bit, but if it's like the dog looks clearly uncomfortable, that is an indicator that that particular individual is very uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, an example. When we had those freak winters, right? We had our dogs out. We had all of them. The Chihuahua. I had my oldest dog at the time. He was my oldest dog. And then I had my older dogs, the Malinois. We had them outside. And the Malinois are having a blast. They love the cold temperature. They get all frisky. The Chihuahua, she was just kind of wondering why we were outside. but she was playing along, but she was just a little bit cold. My oldest dog, at the time, I think he was maybe 12. I don't remember exactly, the age and how long ago that happened. I think he was about 12. And he never shies away from the temperatures. But in this particular instance, he looked uncomfortable. The other dogs were having a blast, right? He looked uncomfortable, and he was doing that. He was shivering, and then at one point, and again, I always want to err on the side of caution. At the same time, I don't like to baby my dogs. When it's cold, I don't just go, all right, let's not go outside. When it's hot, I don't go, okay, just AC 24/7 for you. So I've just kind of had this, hey buddy, let's go, come on, let's get going. We're about to go inside. Let's just kind of play along a few more minutes. And he would get excited. He would start playing, but I could see him shivering a little bit. And then I saw that he just kind of wasn't. He was kind of hesitant to like move us. I was like, yeah, I gotta get you back in. I picked him up. I just brought him inside. I'm like, yeah, you are telling me you're very uncomfortable now. The Chihuahua was fine. She was, even though she's small, but she was younger than him, right? And the Malinois are just running around like idiots, just having a blast. But he was telling me, I'm uncomfortable. I'm really not enjoying this. Like he's doing the shivering and all of that. I'm like, all right, that was enough exposure for you. Let's put you away. I picked him up and just put him away. And that was enough for him. So I would say, as far as physical obvious signs, go for the obvious ones. Get the shivering. Some of the not so obvious ones is when you are possibly pushing into the danger zone. And that's when the shivering stops. And your dog's not moving a whole lot. And then it's incredibly cold, like really, really cold. They're not necessarily having a blast. They're not running around all happy. They're just kind of standing there, not shivering when they should be, or if they were shivering before and now they're not shivering, that means get your dog inside as soon as possible, because then hypothermia could be kicking in right there.
Gotcha. So, okay, it's cold. We're out of our normal routines with our dogs. Some of them we take them for walks. We get them, they get their exercise, just running around outside. Are there certain activities that you would recommend that we could do in the house to indoor activities just to keep some of the stir craziness to
Yeah.
not go crazy?
Yeah, so the big ones are going to be interactive toys.
Okay.
You know, if you get interactive toys that are made, and I think we've discussed this before in previous episodes, but essentially just anything where you can go, instead of just eating, we're going to feed you through an interactive toy where you have to work. You know what I mean? That is the best way to keep them occupied, mentally active, when going outside is basically out of the question because of extenuating circumstances where it's not doable. So interactive toys is the best bet.
So, okay, let's just take the people side of this. Okay, it's cold outside. We've been inside for a while. Okay, we're all getting stir crazy. I got to get out and go do something.
Mm-hmm.
If it's comfortable enough for me to come outside to go do something, should I grab one of my dogs and
Yeah,
try to take it for a walk?
absolutely.
Maybe keep it off the asphalt. If the asphalt's cold, is there a certain?
Yeah. So people again people have different opinions on on dogs' abilities to handle things, because I have seen dogs do well in very, very tough conditions. I know sort of the limitations that I can push into. Some people go, if it's really cold and you wouldn't walk barefoot, don't take your dog out. Well, that's a very low standard for a dog. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
most of us will be uncomfortable walking barefoot out on our yard because our feet are not used to that.
Correct.
But dogs can run on gravel. So I would say if you can go outside, even if, and don't take your level of comfort as a gauge for your dog, because dogs can, again, do very, very well. I'd say, if it's way below freezing, you take your dog out, and because a lot of us have to potty our dogs anyway, so you kind of get to see the reaction to the cold. So let's say if it's incredibly cold, way below freezing, and your dog is kind of picking up its paws, like it's acting like it's walking on hot pavement, that to me is a visual indication that the ground is very, very cold for him. And so then I take that as a gauge, maybe not quite ready for a walk.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? Maybe it's a little bit too cold for a walk. But if I take my dog out for a potty break, walk around a little bit in the yard, and they're not picking up their feet like they're walking on hot coals, on really freezing cold temperatures, then I go, I could probably take them for a walk.
Okay. I mean, and you just made a great point. I mean, we're talking freezing.
Yeah.
Freezing below freezing.
Yeah.
Kind of going
Yeah.
But I noticed in that last cold spell we had come through a couple years ago, it was, after a day, our dogs were ready to venture out.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were cautious as they went out, but they wanted out. And they needed to get outside.
Yeah. Every once in a while, there's going to be some dog that does not want to go out, and I've seen them. Like, you go, hey buddy, let's go. And even though it's not freezing, it's just cold, they're like, I don't want to go out there. And I wouldn't take that as, oh no, it's too cold for him. Sometimes our dogs, because they're adaptable, they can adapt to incredibly comfortable lifestyle. They can also adapt to very uncomfortable lifestyle. Sometimes they get a little bit too adjusted to the nice, comfortable, warm temperature and all of that, right? So if I have a dog that, it's cold, but it's not insane, it's reasonable, and I want to get the dog out, and the dog goes, no, I don't want to go outside, I'm going to be like, no, we're gonna go outside. Let's go. You got to get some exercise. You have to stretch your legs. I know you're going to be shivering a little bit, but I'm only asking you to be out there for like a few minutes.
Well, like with Regina's mother's dog, little dog we have. In those situations, I'll have to pick her up, take her outside, but I will go a distance, set her down,
Yeah.
let her go to the bathroom, and then she's at least got to hightail it to run to get back to
There
the
you go.
house.
Get some exercise.
Yeah, so it's you know, we figured this game out with her. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, no,
yeah.
I'm not going to pick you up, but I'm also not going to set you right by the back door.
Yeah.
We're going. We're going to find a nice little sun spot if the sun's out and set you there, and when you get to go in the restroom, then you can run as fast as you can to get back in that house.
Good exercise.
Yeah,
Our
Yeah.
biggest challenge with weather is rain.
yeah.
With our
Yeah.
dogs. They don't want to go out in the rain.
They
so-
they think they're going to melt.
That is uncomfortable, you know, for a lot of dogs. Yeah.
Was there anything else? I mean, you've pretty much in 1.5 answers covered 6 of my 7 questions. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be repetitive on everything, but is there anything else you can think of that I mean, obviously common sense has got to kick in to a degree here.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if I got a large dog that's, like you said, a German Shepherd, for example, really thick hair, big paws, that's completely different than a little short, stubby, short-haired
Yeah.
animal.
Like a yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the thinner, the less hair, the smaller, all of that.
And
There's a factor.
You did point out earlier that, you know, dogs, they can die in the igloos and the...
Yeah, absolutely.
They need to be, you know, have the dry bedding in there. If, like you said, we have some heating pads that were donated to us
Yeah.
that when the animal lays on them, it activates it.
Nice.
And so
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's not unnecessary electricity running and
Yeah.
going there, but
Nice.
and then the cords are
Chew-proof.
chew-proof. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, it's like,
Yeah.
I know the person paid a little bit to get those, but sent us like 4 or 5 of them, and they are, I mean,
Personally, that was before Friends of
Yeah, it was
Animals.
way before Friends of
They
Animals, yeah.
sent it
Wow.
for all of our feral cats.
yeah. So our cats in the cold weather would go on our porch and get on the chairs. And
Yeah.
sleep, and then he was like, "Oh, just get this and put just a little something on top of it, and just as they lay on it,
Yeah.
it heats up. When they're not laying on it,
That's amazing.
Yeah, so-
That's a really good accessory to have.
it is. So we
We can link that to our Facebook page. If anybody wants to see what we're talking about, we'll be happy to put a link on our Facebook page to the video if you look at the
Yeah.
video.
Interesting.
yeah, and we've like last night was not super cold, but we knew cold was coming, so we're actually trying this new theory, trying to winterize as much as we can before it's like 30.
It never happens.
Yeah, before it gets super cold. But we put one of those into an igloo, and we're working with the dogs going into it and showing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a dog bed that didn't last.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're hoping this pad lasts, because the heating pad, because the dog bed got chewed.